Princess Charlotte stood in the palace hallway, her petite figure almost swallowed by the afternoon darkness. For the last 10 minutes, she'd been observing Staff Sergeant David Mitchell, not staring openly, just quick peeks whenever his attention shifted elsewhere. The kind of observation that comes from someone gathering their nerve. Mitchell picked up on it. More than 10 years in service had trained him to notice these things. How individuals positioned themselves, their movement patterns. The young princess clearly had something weighing on her mind, something left unspoken. When the hallway cleared, she moved closer. Her school uniform looked crisp and perfectly ironed, yet her left arm hung in a slightly different way than her right. Nothing dramatic, just noticeable enough if you were actually paying attention. "Pardon me," Charlotte spoke softly, her words barely traveling across the marble flooring. "Could I speak with you briefly? Perhaps somewhere private?" Mitchell turned to face her completely. "Certainly, Your Highness. How can I assist you?" She checked the corridor both ways, ensuring no one else was present, then looked back at him. Her eyes contained something he'd witnessed before during deployment. Fear attempting to mask itself with composure. "It's about my wrist." She raised her left arm marginally, grimacing as she moved it. "The pain's quite bad. I believe something's actually wrong." Mitchell moved nearer, maintaining a relaxed stance, non-threatening. "How long has the pain lasted?" "Since early this morning." Charlotte's voice dropped lower. "I didn't want to create a fuss," but she stopped mid-sentence. Mitchell observed how she held that arm protectively against her body, guarding it, the kind of positioning that signals pain. "Would you mind if I examined it?" he asked softly. Charlotte gave a nod. She extended her left arm gradually, extremely slowly, as though each movement had a cost. Mitchell's training engaged instantly. The wrist displayed obvious swelling, discoloration surrounding the joint, and when she attempted even slight rotation, her complexion went pale. The positioning was off. Subtle, yet off. Not a compound fracture. Just off enough to signal to someone experienced that medical attention was needed. Immediately. "Your Highness, can you tell me precisely when this occurred?" "During my etiquette instruction this morning." Charlotte's gaze fell. She mentioned I wasn't concentrating properly. She meaning Miss Whitmore, the protocol officer. Charlotte's voice became even quieter. "She warned me that if I mentioned it to anyone, I'd be the one in trouble, that I was being overdramatic." Mitchell felt tension in his jaw. He maintained a neutral expression. "Charlotte, I need you to listen very carefully. You haven't done anything wrong, and coming to me was absolutely the right decision. But I must take you to the palace physician immediately." Relief flooded Charlotte's expression. Then anxiety. "Will you inform her, Miss Whitmore? I'm going to ensure you're properly cared for." "That's the priority right now." Charlotte nodded. Her uninjured hand clutched the edge of her school blazer. "Could you please help me? I'm already doing that. Walk with me." Before we go further with this account, please subscribe to our channel. We post untold palace stories daily. Leave a comment telling us, should the guard have sought authorization first, or was his action correct? Now let's continue with what unfolded next. Mitchell contacted the palace medical wing while they walked. Concise. Professional. "This is Staff Sergeant Mitchell. I'm escorting Princess Charlotte to Dr. Hayes. She's sustained an injury requiring immediate evaluation." The reply came swiftly. "Is emergency response needed?" Mitchell glanced at Charlotte's carefully protected arm. "The doctor needs to make that assessment. Will arrive in 3 minutes." They'd covered barely 20 paces when a voice rang out behind them. Crisp, commanding. "Sergeant Mitchell, where are you taking Princess Charlotte?" Mitchell pivoted. Miss Whitmore stood at the corridor intersection. Mid-50s, immaculately attired, 23 years of palace employment, the type of woman who prioritized protocol above all else. "To the medical wing, ma'am. Princess Charlotte's injured her wrist. I'm certain it's nothing significant." Whitmore approached them, her heels clicking on the marble. Charlotte tends to be somewhat theatrical about minor bumps and scrapes. Charlotte's good hand gripped Mitchell's sleeve tighter. A subtle gesture, yet it communicated everything he needed to know. "Respectfully, ma'am, that determination belongs to the doctor." Whitmore's expression grew stern. "I've been with Princess Charlotte throughout the morning. She had a minor stumble during her instruction. Nothing requiring medical intervention. You're overreacting." Mitchell kept his tone even. The princess displays visible swelling and restricted wrist mobility. She's experiencing pain. I'm escorting her to Dr. Hayes. I don't think that's necessary, Sergeant. Whitmore moved closer, dropping her volume. You're generating needless concern over a child's insignificant accident. I witnessed it. She simply lost balance during a curtsy. Then the doctor will verify it's insignificant, and everyone will feel reassured. Mitchell turned back toward the medical wing. Come along, Charlotte. I'm issuing you a direct order to stop. Whitmore's voice elevated slightly. Princess Charlotte doesn't require medical attention. She needs to complete her afternoon instruction. Mitchell halted. This was the critical moment. Protocol dictated. Defer to senior palace personnel. His instinct said, "Get this child to a doctor." The choice took approximately 3 seconds. "Ma'am, I'm respectfully going to decline that order. Princess Charlotte is injured. I'm taking her for medical evaluation. If you question my judgment, you may report me to the guard commander." He resumed walking. Charlotte stayed close beside him. Whitmore called after them. "This is extremely inappropriate. I'll be submitting a formal complaint." Mitchell didn't look back. "That's within your rights." Charlotte looked up at him as they proceeded. "Will you be in trouble? Don't concern yourself with me. Let's focus on getting your wrist examined." The medical wing occupied the palace's eastern section. Quiet, sterile, equipped to manage everything from minor injuries to critical medical emergencies. Dr. Eleanor Hayes had served as palace physician for nearly 15 years. She'd witnessed everything. She greeted them at the entrance. Late 40s, composed demeanor, the kind of presence that instantly puts people at ease. Princess Charlotte, Sergeant Mitchell, she motioned them inside. What appears to be the issue? Mitchell allowed Charlotte to explain. The young princess spoke quietly, describing how her wrist had been hurting since morning, how she'd attempted to conceal it, how she'd finally sought assistance. Dr. Hayes listened without interruption. Then she addressed Mitchell. "Thank you for bringing her, Sergeant. You may wait just outside during my examination." Actually, Charlotte interjected quickly. "Could he remain, please?" Dr. Hayes glanced at Mitchell, then returned to Charlotte. "Certainly, if that's more comfortable for you." The examination began gently. Dr. Hayes requested Charlotte describe the pain location, demonstrate which movements caused discomfort. The young princess responded to each question carefully, attempting to be brave. When Dr. Hayes touched the wrist, even delicately, Charlotte's sharp gasp said everything. "I understand." The doctor's tone remained professional, though her expression shifted. "Charlotte, I'll need to take some X-rays. That means capturing images of the bones inside your wrist. There's no pain involved, I promise. It'll simply help me see exactly what's happening." "All right. Sergeant Mitchell can remain with you throughout. Does that work?" Charlotte nodded, relief evident on her face. The X-ray room was compact, functional. Dr. Hayes positioned Charlotte's arm carefully on the imaging surface. The young princess stayed completely motionless, her face showing concentration. "You're doing wonderfully, sweetheart," Dr. Hayes said. "Just one additional angle." The entire procedure took perhaps 10 minutes. Then Dr. Hayes stepped away to examine the images in the adjoining room. Charlotte and Mitchell waited in the examination area. "Do you think it's serious?" Charlotte asked quietly. Mitchell selected his words carefully. "I think the doctor will know the best way to help you. That's what's important. I should have spoken up sooner." Charlotte's voice became smaller. But Miss Whitmore indicated, "You did precisely what you should have done. You requested help when you needed it. That required courage." Charlotte managed a slight smile. Then her expression altered. She looked toward the door, ensuring it was shut. "May I tell you something?" "Absolutely. I didn't actually fall." "Not in the way she said." Charlotte's uninjured hand fidgeted with her uniform. "I was rehearsing the formal curtsy, the deep one for state functions." Miss Whitmore stated, "I wasn't maintaining my posture correctly." She kept correcting me repeatedly. Mitchell remained silent, allowing her to continue. Then she claimed I was being intentionally difficult, that I wasn't making sufficient effort. I told her I was trying. That's when she grabbed my hand. Charlotte's voice fell to barely audible. She said I needed to learn to accept instruction properly, and she pulled my arm to reposition me correctly. I attempted to pull away. That's when it occurred. When what occurred, Charlotte? When she twisted my wrist forcefully, extremely forcefully, Tears welled in Charlotte's eyes. The pain was intense, but she claimed I'd caused it myself by pulling away, that if I told anyone, I'd be blamed for being dramatic and difficult. Mitchell felt something cold settle in his chest. Years of military experience, multiple deployments. He recognized defensive injuries. This pattern, this description. You made the right decision telling me, he stated firmly. And you're not in any trouble. Not remotely. The door opened. Dr. Hayes returned. Her expression was carefully controlled. Professional, though Mitchell noticed the tension in her jaw. Charlotte, sweetheart, I need to speak with the sergeant briefly. Can you wait here? I'll be just outside. Charlotte nodded, though uncertainty crossed her face. Dr. Hayes gestured Mitchell into the corridor. She closed the door. When she spoke, her voice was controlled and low. I need you to contact Prince William and Princess Catherine right away. What did the X-ray reveal? Dr. Hayes displayed the images on a tablet. She indicated Charlotte's wrist. Even without medical expertise, Mitchell could identify the problems. 2 distinct lines across the bone. Fractures. 2 separate breaks, Dr. Hayes said quietly. Both clean radius fractures. The pattern, she paused, selecting her words. These injuries align with her wrist, being forcibly bent backward. Considerable force was necessary. She described what happened to me. A protocol officer grabbed her during instruction, twisted her wrist when Charlotte attempted to pull away. Dr. Hayes's expression hardened. These are defensive injuries, Sergeant. I've encountered this pattern previously. This didn't result from a fall or accident. Someone inflicted this on her. What's our next step? I'm legally obligated to file a report when I observe injuries like these in a child. That report goes to Child Protective Services and the Metropolitan Police. She met his gaze. But first, her parents must know. They need to view these X-rays. They need to hear what their daughter shared with you. Mitchell retrieved his phone. I'll contact them now. Make it explicit this is urgent. Extremely urgent. The call connected after 2 rings. Mitchell maintained a steady, professional voice. Your Royal Highness, this is Staff Sergeant Mitchell. I'm at the Palace Medical Wing with Princess Charlotte. Dr. Hayes requires speaking with you urgently. Prince William's voice sharpened. What's happened? Is she injured? Yes, sir. It's serious. You and Princess Catherine should come immediately. We're 20 minutes away. We'll be there as quickly as possible. I'll remain with her, sir. The line went dead. Mitchell looked at Dr. Hayes. 20 minutes. Good. I'm staying with Charlotte until their arrival. There are additional questions I need to ask her regarding what happened. Who was present? She paused. This will become a formal investigation, Sergeant. Once I file that report, everything transforms. Mitchell nodded. He understood. The princess requires protection. That's the priority. That protocol officer, Miss Whitmore, where is she currently? Last I observed, she was in the East Wing corridor. She attempted to prevent me from bringing Charlotte here. Dr. Hayes's expression turned cold. Naturally she did. She knew what she'd done. What the guard didn't realize was that, within an hour, this would escalate beyond palace boundaries. The X-rays Dr. Hayes was documenting would become criminal evidence, and the person who'd harmed Princess Charlotte had no awareness that medical science was about to prove precisely what had transpired. They returned to the examination room. Charlotte looked up hopefully. Is it bad? Dr. Hayes sat beside her, her tone gentle yet honest. Charlotte, you have 2 broken bones in your wrist. That's why the pain is so severe. We'll need to apply a cast so it can heal correctly. Charlotte's eyes widened. Broken? Actually broken? Actually broken. But you're going to heal perfectly. Bones mend. You'll wear a cast for approximately 6 to 8 weeks, then you'll be completely fine. Does it need to be white? Can I select a color? Dr. Hayes smiled despite the gravity of the situation. You can absolutely choose a color. We have blue, pink, purple, green. Purple, Charlotte stated immediately. That's my favorite. Purple it is. But first, your mom and dad are coming. They'll arrive soon. I need to ask you some additional questions about this morning's events. Is that acceptable? Charlotte nodded slowly. Will Miss Whitmore discover I told? You needn't worry about Miss Whitmore anymore, Mitchell said firmly. You're safe. Dr. Hayes spent the following 15 minutes carefully documenting Charlotte's account. When it happened, where, who was present, precisely what Miss Whitmore had said and done. She recorded everything with medical precision. Charlotte answered each question. Her voice remained small, but she held nothing back. She described the etiquette instruction, the repeated corrections, the escalating frustration in Miss Whitmore's voice. The moment the protocol officer seized her hand, she twisted it backward. Charlotte demonstrated with her uninjured hand. Like this. I heard something pop. The pain was so intense I couldn't breathe momentarily. But Miss Whitmore stated I'd caused it myself, that I needed to stop being so sensitive. Did anyone else witness this? Dr. Hayes asked. No, just the two of us. We were in the small drawing room on the 3rd floor. And following the incident, what did Miss Whitmore do? She instructed me to stop crying, that I was being overdramatic, and she warned that if I told anyone, they'd believe I was lying to get her in trouble, that everyone would believe her over me because she'd been here longer. Dr. Hayes's pen moved steadily across her notepad, every word documented, every detail preserved. Did she touch you anywhere else? Did she harm you in any other manner? No, only my wrist. Has Miss Whitmore ever harmed you before this? Charlotte hesitated, then shook her head. No, but she's grabbed my arm previously when she thought I wasn't listening. Not forcefully enough to hurt, just firm. Mitchell observed the young princess throughout the interview. She was attempting so hard to be brave, to answer everything correctly, to not cry, even though her wrist clearly hurt, and she was frightened and confused about why an adult she'd trusted had harmed her. Footsteps resonated in the corridor outside, rapid and purposeful. The door opened and Prince William and Princess Catherine rushed in. Kate went directly to Charlotte. Sweetheart! Oh, sweetheart! She embraced her daughter carefully, avoiding the injured wrist. William's eyes found Dr. Hayes. What's happened? The doctor stood, her expression professional yet grave. Your Highness, Princess Charlotte has sustained 2 fractures to her left radius. I have X-rays I need to show you both. Fractures? Kate's voice caught. Charlotte, darling, why didn't you inform us you were hurt? I'm sorry, Mummy. I didn't want to create trouble. William crouched beside Charlotte. His voice remained calm, though Mitchell could detect the tension in every line of his body. You're never trouble, Charlotte. Never. Can you tell us what happened? Charlotte looked at her parents, then at Mitchell, then back at her parents. It was Miss Whitmore during my etiquette instruction. She grabbed my hand and twisted it. She claimed it was my fault for pulling away. The temperature in the room seemed to plummet 10 degrees. William's expression remained unchanged, but his eyes hardened in a way Mitchell had never witnessed. She did this to you? William's voice stayed perfectly level. Miss Whitmore did this? Charlotte nodded, tears finally overflowing. I'm sorry, Papa. I should have told you immediately, but she said, you have absolutely nothing to apologize for. Nothing. William looked at Dr. Hayes. Show me the X-rays. Dr. Hayes displayed the images. William and Kate stood side by side, staring at the screen. Mitchell observed their expressions transform as they saw the 2 clear fracture lines. As they comprehended what those images meant, Kate's hand covered her mouth. William's jaw set like stone. These fractures required significant force, Dr. Hayes said quietly. Based on the pattern and Charlotte's description of the incident, these are what we term defensive injuries. They occurred when someone forcibly bent her wrist backward while she was attempting to pull away. You're certain? William's voice could slice steel. I'm certain. I've been practicing medicine for 23 years. I know what I'm examining. William turned to Mitchell. You brought her here? Yes, sir. Princess Charlotte came to me approximately an hour ago. She showed me her wrist. I could see she was injured and in pain. Miss Whitmore attempted to prevent me from bringing her to the medical wing. She tried to stop you? Yes, sir. She claimed Charlotte was being dramatic about a minor tumble and that medical attention wasn't necessary. Of course she did. William's hands formed fists at his sides. He took a slow breath, then another. When he spoke again, his voice was deadly calm. Dr. Hayes, I assume you're obligated to file a report about this. I am. I've already begun the documentation. This report will go to Child Protective Services and the Metropolitan Police. Good. I want it filed immediately. William looked at his daughter, his expression softening. Charlotte, you did precisely the right thing telling someone. You were incredibly brave. I'm proud of you. Charlotte managed a wobbly smile through her tears. William straightened. His voice transformed. Not father now. Prince, I need to know everyone who had contact with Charlotte today. I need a complete timeline, and I need to know Miss Whitmore's current location. Mitchell stepped forward. I can coordinate with palace security for the timeline and witness interviews, Your Highness. Do it. I want to know everything that happened today. Every interaction Charlotte had. Every person who saw her. William's voice remained calm, terrifyingly calm. And someone needs to locate Miss Whitmore before I do. Kate stayed with Charlotte while Dr. Hayes prepared the casting materials. William stepped into the corridor with Mitchell, his composure maintained by a thread. Tell me everything, William said. From the moment Charlotte approached you. Mitchell recounted it all. Charlotte's careful approach, the visible injury, Miss Whitmore's attempts to dismiss it as dramatics, the decision to bypass her authority and bring Charlotte for medical attention. You disobeyed a senior staff member's direct order, William said. Yes, sir, I did. Good. William's voice was ice. You prioritized my daughter's safety. That's precisely what you should have done. Thank you. Mitchell nodded once. What do you require from me now, Your Highness? I need you to coordinate with palace security. Get me camera footage from the 3rd floor, time-stamped from 9 this morning until noon. I need to know everyone in that corridor, everyone who might have seen or heard something. I'll handle it personally. And locate Miss Whitmore's current position. Don't approach her. Don't alert her we're looking. Just locate her and inform me. Understood. William retrieved his phone. I'm calling my private secretary. This needs proper documentation. Every detail, every witness. And by the time the police arrive, I want a complete timeline prepared for them. Mitchell left William in the corridor and proceeded directly to the Security Operations Center. The palace security system was extensive. Cameras covered most corridors, entrances, and public areas. If Miss Whitmore had been anywhere visible today, footage would exist. Captain Richard Wells commanded the security detail. Former military, 32 years of service, absolutely loyal to the royal family. He looked up when Mitchell entered. Sergeant, what can I do for you? I need camera footage. 3rd floor, East Wing. Timestamp from 0900 to 1200 hours today. Wells's expression sharpened. What's this regarding? Princess Charlotte was injured during her etiquette instruction this morning. Prince William wants a complete timeline of everyone on that floor. Injured how? 2 broken bones in her wrist. The palace physician has confirmed defensive injuries. Someone harmed her. Wells stood immediately. Pull up 3rd floor, East Wing. He instructed the operator. Start at 0900. The screens activated. Multiple camera angles displayed the corridor outside the small drawing room where Charlotte had her lessons. There, Mitchell indicated. 0915. That's Charlotte and Miss Whitmore entering. They observed the footage in silence. Charlotte walked beside the protocol officer, her posture perfect, her school uniform immaculate. Miss Whitmore carried a folder of notes. Nothing unusual. Just another Tuesday morning lesson. Fast forward to 1100, Mitchell said. The timestamp jumped ahead. At 11:03, the drawing room door opened. Miss Whitmore stepped out alone. She looked both directions down the corridor. Her hand touched her necklace. Once, twice, 3 times. Nervous habit, Wells observed. Or guilty conscience. Miss Whitmore walked quickly down the corridor, disappearing around the corner toward the staff offices. Where's Charlotte? Wells asked. Still inside. Fast forward another 20 minutes. At 11:27, Charlotte emerged from the drawing room. The camera angle wasn't ideal, but even on grainy footage, something was clearly wrong. The young princess cradled her left arm close to her body. She walked slowly, carefully. Every few steps she paused as if gathering strength. Mitchell felt his jaw tighten watching it. Charlotte had been alone in that room for nearly 25 minutes after Miss Whitmore left. Alone and injured. She's in pain, Wells said quietly. Look at her movement. Charlotte proceeded down the corridor. She paused at a window, leaning against the frame. Then she continued, eventually reaching the main corridor, where she'd found Mitchell 40 minutes later. I need this footage copied, Mitchell said. All of it. And I need you to track Miss Whitmore's movements for the remainder of the day. Already on it. Wells turned to his operator. Find Whitmore. Current location. The operator's fingers moved across the keyboard. Camera feeds cycled through. Finally, one locked on. Staff residential wing, 3rd floor. She's in her private quarters. She hasn't exited the palace, Mitchell asked. Not according to the logs. And she's been in her room for the past 45 minutes. Mitchell retrieved his phone and texted William. Located. Staff residential wing, 3rd floor. Room 312. Hasn't left the palace. The response came within seconds. Don't let her leave. If she attempts it, stop her. Mitchell showed the text to Wells. The captain nodded grimly. I'll position someone on the corridor. Discreet, but if she heads for an exit, we'll intercept. William wants witness interviews. Anyone on the 3rd floor this morning. Anyone who might have seen or heard something. We can pull badge access logs, see who was in the area. Wells began typing commands. Give me 5 minutes. While Wells worked, Mitchell reviewed more footage. He observed Miss Whitmore's behavior throughout the morning. How she'd entered the drawing room with Charlotte, calm and professional. Nothing unusual. But when she'd left, different. The hand touching her necklace, the quick glances, the hurried pace. Someone who knew something had gone wrong and wanted distance from it. Got the access logs, Wells said. 12 people badged into the 3rd floor east wing between 9 and noon. Most were household staff, a few maintenance workers, one private secretary. I need to speak with all of them. I'll start making calls. Mitchell returned to the medical wing. Charlotte now wore a purple cast from her hand to just below her elbow. She was attempting to smile, but exhaustion showed in every line of her small face. Kate sat beside her, one arm around her daughter's shoulders. William stood near the window, phone pressed to his ear. Mitchell caught the conclusion of the conversation. I don't care what the protocol is. My daughter has been assaulted. I want a detective here within the hour. William's voice stayed level. Barely. Thank you, Commissioner. He ended the call and turned to Dr. Hayes. The Metropolitan Police are sending their best detective. She'll be here shortly to take Charlotte's statement. Your Highness, Dr. Hayes said carefully. Charlotte has experienced a traumatic event. The interview process needs delicate handling. I understand. That's why I specifically requested Detective Inspector Sarah Chen. She specializes in sensitive cases involving children. Mitchell stepped forward. Your Highness, we have security footage. Miss Whitmore left Charlotte alone in the drawing room for 25 minutes following the incident. Charlotte had to walk herself out, clearly injured. William's expression darkened. She left her there alone? Yes, sir. The footage shows Charlotte emerging from the room at 11:27, visibly cradling her arm. Miss Whitmore had already returned to the staff wing. Show me. They moved to Dr. Hayes's office, where Mitchell displayed the footage on his phone. William watched in silence. When Charlotte appeared on screen, walking slowly with her arm held close, something shifted in his expression. She's 9 years old, he said quietly. 9, and that woman left her alone and hurt. Kate appeared in the doorway. William, Charlotte's asking for you. He returned to the examination room immediately. Charlotte looked up at him with serious eyes. Papa, will I have to speak with the police? William sat beside her, his voice gentle. Yes, sweetheart. A very kind detective is coming to speak with you. She just needs to hear what happened in your own words. Is that acceptable? Will you stay with me? Every second. I promise. What the X-rays revealed shocked everyone who saw them. The palace was about to face a crisis unlike any before. If you're invested in Charlotte's story, hit that like button and share in the comments how you would have reacted. Now, here's what the detective discovered when she arrived. Detective Inspector Sarah Chen arrived 38 minutes later. Early 40s, calm demeanor, 20 years with the Metropolitan Police. She'd handled hundreds of sensitive cases, but walking into Kensington Palace to interview a princess about an assault was unprecedented even for her. William met her in the corridor outside the medical wing. Detective Inspector Chen, thank you for coming so quickly. Your Highness. Chen's voice was professional, respectful. I understand Princess Charlotte has sustained injuries during an incident with a staff member, 2 broken bones in her wrist. The palace physician has documented everything. The injuries are consistent with defensive positioning when someone forcibly bent her wrist backward. I'll need to speak with Princess Charlotte directly. Interview protocol for child victims requires I know the protocol. My wife and I can be present, but we'll let Charlotte speak for herself. Dr. Hayes will also be in the room. That's acceptable. They entered the examination room together. Chen's entire demeanor shifted when she saw Charlotte. Professional distance remained, but her expression softened. Hello, Charlotte. My name is Sarah. I'm a detective. I know you've had a very difficult day, but I need to ask you some questions about what happened. Is that all right? Charlotte nodded, her good hand gripping Kate's. Chen sat down, retrieving a notebook. Can you tell me about your etiquette lesson this morning? Start from the beginning. Charlotte took a breath. Then she told the story again, this time with more detail. She described arriving at the drawing room at 9:15, how Miss Whitmore had seemed frustrated from the start, how the corrections had become sharper, more critical. She kept saying, I wasn't trying hard enough, Charlotte said, that I was embarrassing the family by not perfecting the formal curtsy. I was trying my best, I promise. But she said it wasn't good enough. What happened next? Chen asked gently. She demonstrated the curtsy again, then told me to copy her exactly. I did, but she said my arm position was wrong. She grabbed my left hand to move it. Charlotte's voice grew quieter. I told her it hurt, that she was gripping too tight. She said I was being oversensitive, that I needed to learn to accept correction. Chen wrote steadily. And then? I tried to pull my hand away. That's when she twisted my wrist backward really hard. I felt something pop. It hurt so badly I couldn't even scream. I couldn't breathe. Kate's hand tightened on Charlotte's shoulder. What did Miss Whitmore say when this happened? Chen asked. She let go immediately. She looked scared for a second, then angry. She said I'd caused it myself by pulling away, that if I hadn't been so difficult, it wouldn't have happened. Charlotte's voice trembled. She told me to stop crying, that I was being dramatic. She said if I told anyone, they'd think I was lying to get her in trouble. Did she attempt to help you? Call for medical attention? No. She said it was probably just a sprain and I'd be fine. She told me to sit down and compose myself. Then she left. She left you alone? Charlotte nodded. I sat there for a long time. My wrist hurt so much. I wanted to call for help, but I was scared. Miss Whitmore said everyone would blame me. Finally, I decided to find a guard, someone I could trust. That was very brave of you, Chen said. You did precisely the right thing. The interview continued for another 20 minutes. Chen's questions were careful, methodical. She documented every detail, timestamps, exact locations, specific words used. Charlotte answered everything, her voice remaining small but steady. When it concluded, Chen closed her notebook. Thank you, Charlotte. You've been incredibly helpful. I know that wasn't easy. Charlotte leaned against Kate, exhaustion finally visible. Chen stood, gesturing for William to join her in the corridor. Mitchell followed. Her account is consistent, detailed, and credible, Chen said once they were alone. Combined with the medical evidence and what I'm certain is security footage, this is a solid case. What happens now? William asked. I need to interview Miss Whitmore. I'll also need to speak with anyone who had contact with Princess Charlotte today. Witness statements, timeline reconstruction, standard investigative process. Miss Whitmore is currently in her quarters in the staff residential wing. She hasn't left the palace. Good. I'll need to speak with her immediately. Do you have a private space I can use for the interview? Use the security office. Captain Wells will provide whatever you need. William's voice hardened. Detective Inspector, I want to be absolutely clear. I'm not requesting special treatment or palace justice. I want this handled exactly as you would any case of child assault. By the book, proper investigation, proper charges if warranted. I understand, Your Highness, and I can tell you right now, based on what I've heard and seen, charges are absolutely warranted. Mitchell escorted Chen to the Security Operations Center. Wells had already prepared an interview room, small, private, equipped with recording equipment. We've located everyone on the 3rd floor this morning, Wells told Chen. 12 individuals total. I'm bringing them in for preliminary interviews. Excellent. I'll start with the closest witnesses, then proceed to Miss Whitmore. The first witness was a housekeeping staff member, Margaret Davies, 58 years old, 19 years of palace service. She'd been cleaning guest rooms on the 3rd floor between 10:30 and 11:15. Did you hear anything unusual from the small drawing room? Chen asked. I heard voices. Miss Whitmore mostly. She sounded stern, like she was correcting someone. But I didn't hear Princess Charlotte speak much. Did you hear anything that sounded like an argument or someone in distress? Margaret hesitated. There was one moment around 11, maybe 5 past. I heard a sharp sound. Not quite a scream, more like someone trying not to scream, if that makes sense. What did you do? I stopped for a second, listened, but then it went quiet, so I thought perhaps I'd imagined it. The palace has odd acoustics sometimes. Guilt crossed her face. I should have checked. If I'd known. You couldn't have known, Chen said. Did you see Miss Whitmore leave? Yes. A few minutes later, she came out of the drawing room and walked quickly toward the staff wing. She looked upset, flustered. Did she say anything to you? No. She didn't even acknowledge me. Just walked past like she was in a hurry. The second witness was a maintenance worker, James Porter, 41. Been with the palace for 7 years. He'd been replacing a light fixture in the corridor at 10:45. I saw Miss Whitmore through the drawing room door when it was open, he said. She was demonstrating something. A curtsy, I think. She seemed intense about it, very focused. Did you see Princess Charlotte? Briefly. She was practicing the curtsy. She looked nervous, like she was trying really hard to get it right. Did you hear anything concerning? Not at that point. I finished the light fixture and moved to the next floor around 11. I didn't see what happened after. 4 more staff members gave similar accounts. They'd seen Miss Whitmore, heard her stern voice, noticed she'd seemed particularly demanding that morning, but none had witnessed the actual incident. Then Chen interviewed the private secretary, who'd been delivering documents to an office 3 doors down from the drawing room. Laura Bennett, 33, 5 years of palace service. I saw Miss Whitmore leave the drawing room at approximately 11:05. She looked rattled. Her hand was shaking slightly when she passed me. Shaking? Yes. Like she was upset about something. I asked if everything was all right. She said fine and kept walking. Very abrupt, not like her usual demeanor. Did you see Princess Charlotte? Not then, but about 20 minutes later, I was heading down the main corridor, and I saw her. She was walking very slowly, holding her arm. She looked pale. I asked if she was all right, and she said she was fine, just needed to find someone. I offered to help, but she said she had it handled. Did you notice she was injured? I noticed she was holding her arm oddly, but she said she was fine, so Laura's voice caught. I should have insisted. I should have done something. Chen made notes on everything. The timeline was becoming crystal clear. The incident happened around 11. Miss Whitmore fled immediately. Charlotte spent 25 minutes alone and hurt before finding help. Finally, Chen said, "Bring in Miss Whitmore." Wells made the call. "Miss Whitmore, this is Captain Wells. I need you to come to the security office immediately." There was a pause, then Whitmore's voice, tight and defensive. "What's this regarding?" "We have some questions regarding Princess Charlotte's injury today. Detective Inspector Chen from the Metropolitan Police needs to speak with you." "Silence then. I'll be there in 5 minutes." Those 5 minutes stretched long. Chen reviewed her notes. Mitchell stood by the door. Wells monitored the cameras, tracking Whitmore's movement through the palace. "She's taking her time," Wells observed. "Stopped in the bathroom. Spent 3 minutes in front of the mirror. Composing herself," Chen said, preparing her story. When Miss Whitmore finally arrived, her composure was firmly in place. Perfectly pressed suit, hair immaculate, expression professionally neutral. She entered the interview room with confident steps. "Detective Inspector, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about Princess Charlotte's unfortunate accident this morning." "Accident?" Chen repeated. "Please have a seat, Miss Whitmore." Whitmore sat, crossing her ankles, folding her hands in her lap. Picture of composed professionalism. Chen activated the recording equipment. "This interview is being recorded. For the record, please state your full name and position." "Victoria Margaret Whitmore, Royal Protocol Officer. I've been with the palace for 23 years. Thank you." "Miss Whitmore, I'm investigating an incident that occurred during Princess Charlotte's etiquette lesson this morning. Can you tell me what happened?" "Of course. Princess Charlotte was practicing formal court curtsies. She's been working on perfecting the technique for an upcoming state event. Unfortunately, during one of her practice attempts, she lost her balance and fell. She hurt her wrist in the fall." "She fell?" "Yes. It was an accident. These things happen with children. They can be uncoordinated sometimes. Where exactly did this fall occur? In the small drawing room on the 3rd floor. We use that space for private lessons. And what time did this happen? Approximately 11 this morning. What did you do when Princess Charlotte fell and injured herself? Whitmore's hand moved to her necklace. Brief touch. I helped her up, of course. I asked if she was all right. She said she was fine. Children often say they're fine even when they're hurt, so I examined her wrist myself. It appeared to be a minor sprain. Nothing serious. Did you call for medical attention? I didn't think it was necessary. As I said, it appeared minor. So you left Princess Charlotte alone in the drawing room with what you believed was a sprained wrist. Whitmore's composure flickered just for a second. I stepped out to retrieve some ice from the staff kitchen. When I returned, Charlotte had already left. How long were you gone? Perhaps 10 minutes. 15 at most. Chen consulted her notes. Security footage shows you left the drawing room at 11:05 and didn't return. Princess Charlotte emerged from the room at 11:27. That's 22 minutes. 22 minutes she was alone after this supposed fall. I may have misremembered the exact timing. It's been a stressful day. Miss Whitmore, I've just interviewed Princess Charlotte. Would you like to know what she told me? The color drained slightly from Whitmore's face. I'm sure the princess is confused about what happened. Children often misremember traumatic events. She remembers quite clearly. She says she didn't fall. She says you grabbed her hand to correct her arm positioning during the curtsy. She says when she tried to pull away because you were gripping too tight, you twisted her wrist backward hard enough to break 2 bones. That's absurd. Whitmore's voice rose slightly. That's completely false. I would never. She also says you told her that if she reported the incident, she'd be the one who got in trouble, that everyone would think she was lying. The princess is clearly, Miss Whitmore, I've seen the x-rays. Dr. Hayes has confirmed these are defensive injuries. The fracture pattern is consistent with someone forcibly bending the wrist backward. These injuries did not come from a fall. Whitmore stood abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. I've served this family for 23 years. I have an impeccable record. If Princess Charlotte is making false accusations, sit down, please, Chen said calmly. I want to speak to my solicitor. That's your right. But I should inform you that based on the evidence I've gathered, I will be recommending charges of child assault. You're not under arrest at this moment, but that may change pending further investigation. Whitmore's carefully maintained composure crumbled. This is ridiculous. It was an accident. She pulled away suddenly and hurt herself. I was simply trying to teach her proper form. So now your story changes. First she fell, now she hurt herself pulling away. Which is it, Miss Whitmore? Silence. Let me tell you what I think happened, Chen continued. I think you grabbed Princess Charlotte's hand harder than you should have. I think when she complained and tried to pull away, you became angry. You twisted her wrist to maintain control, to force her compliance. And when you realized what you'd done, you panicked. You threatened her to keep her quiet. Then you left her alone and hurt, while you tried to figure out what to do. Whitmore's hands gripped the edge of the table. I want my solicitor. I'm not saying anything else. That's your right. But I need to inform you that you're not to leave the palace grounds. You're not to have any contact with Princess Charlotte or any other member of the royal family. You're not to discuss this case with other staff members. Do you understand? Am I being arrested? Not at this time, but you are a suspect in an ongoing investigation. Captain Wells will show you back to your quarters where you'll remain until we've completed our investigation. Wells stepped forward. This way, Miss Whitmore. She left the room, her professional composure completely shattered. Fear showed in every line of her face. Chen turned to Mitchell. Where's Prince William? Still with his daughter in the medical wing. I need to update him, and I need to contact my supervisor. This is going to move quickly now. Detective Inspector Chen found William in the corridor outside the medical wing. He was on his phone again, his voice carrying that dangerous calm that came from barely controlled fury. I don't care about palace protocols right now. My daughter was assaulted by a staff member. I want formal charges filed. He paused, listening. Yes, assault causing bodily harm. I want this handled exactly as you would any other case. No special consideration because it happened in a palace. He ended the call and turned to Chen. "Detective Inspector, what did you learn?" Miss Whitmore's story has changed 3 times in one interview. First, Princess Charlotte fell. Then she hurt herself pulling away. The medical evidence contradicts both versions. Her account is inconsistent with the injuries, with the timeline, and with witness statements. So what happens now? I've informed Miss Whitmore that she's a suspect in an ongoing investigation. She's been instructed to remain on palace grounds and not to contact Princess Charlotte or other royal family members. I need to consult with my supervisor and the Crown Prosecution Service, but based on what I've gathered, I will be recommending charges. William's jaw set. How long will that take? The investigation will continue for several days. We'll need to complete all witness interviews, obtain official medical reports, review all security footage. But the charge decision could come within 48 to 72 hours. That's too long. Your Highness, I understand your frustration, but we need to build a solid case. We need to do this properly so that when charges are filed, they stick. William took a slow breath. You're right. I know you're right. He looked toward the medical wing where his daughter was. She's 9 years old. Someone hurt her and then threatened her into silence. That person is still in my palace. She won't have access to Princess Charlotte or any of the children. Captain Wells has already implemented security measures. And honestly, Miss Whitmore isn't going anywhere. She knows what's coming. Mitchell approached from the security office. Your Highness, we've completed initial interviews with all staff who were on the 3rd floor this morning. Several heard Miss Whitmore's raised voice. One heard what sounded like someone trying not to scream. Security footage confirms Miss Whitmore left Charlotte alone for 22 minutes after the incident. Did anyone check on Charlotte during those 22 minutes? No, sir. The drawing room door was closed. Staff assumed the lesson was continuing. William's hands formed fists at his sides. So my daughter sat alone, hurt and scared, for nearly half an hour because that woman told her to keep quiet. I'm afraid so, sir. The moment Prince William saw those X-rays, everything changed. What happened next sent shockwaves through the entire royal family. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. You won't want to miss our next story. Here's what William did when he learned the truth. William retrieved his phone again. This time he called the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police directly. The conversation was brief, precise, and left no room for misinterpretation. Commissioner, this is Prince William. I want to be absolutely clear about my expectations regarding the investigation into the assault on my daughter. I want no special treatment. I want this case handled exactly as you would any other child assault case. Thorough investigation, proper charges if warranted. And I want it done quickly but correctly. He listened for a moment. I appreciate that. Please keep Detective Inspector Chen assigned to this case. She's already established rapport with Charlotte, and I trust her judgment. Another pause. Thank you, Commissioner. When he disconnected, his expression was set with determination. The Commissioner is personally overseeing this investigation. He's assigning additional resources to expedite the process without compromising thoroughness. Kate emerged from the medical wing. William, Charlotte's asking for you. She wants to go home. Let's take her home then. Dr. Hayes wants to keep her for observation for a few more hours. Make sure the pain management is working properly. William nodded. Then I'll stay with her. You should return to George and Louis. They'll be worried. I'm not leaving her. Kate's voice was quiet but absolute. George and Louis are safe with their nanny. Charlotte needs both of us right now. William reached for her hand, squeezed once. You're right. We'll both stay. They returned to Charlotte together. The young princess had been moved to a private recovery room, more comfortable than the examination area. She sat propped up with pillows, her purple cast resting on a cushion. The pain medication had made her drowsy, but she still tried to smile when her parents entered. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Kate asked, settling beside her. Tired. My wrist still hurts a bit, but it's better than before. Charlotte looked at her cast. At least it's purple. At least it's purple, William agreed, managing a smile. Dr. Hayes says you can go home in a few hours. Your brothers will want to sign your cast. Louis will probably draw dinosaurs all over it. Probably. Charlotte's expression grew more serious. "Papa, what's going to happen to Miss Whitmore?" William chose his words carefully. "The police are investigating what happened. They're speaking to witnesses and gathering evidence. When they have everything they need, they'll decide what to do next." "Is she going to get in trouble?" "Yes. What she did was wrong. There are consequences for hurting someone, especially a child. Even in a palace. Especially in a palace. People who work here are supposed to protect you, not hurt you." Charlotte considered this. "Then I'm glad I told Sergeant Mitchell, even though I was scared. He did exactly what he should have done. He protected you." Over the next 72 hours, the investigation moved with remarkable speed. Detective Inspector Chen conducted 14 additional interviews. She obtained formal medical reports from Dr. Hayes that documented not just the fractures, but the defensive injury pattern. She secured all security footage, creating a timeline that showed exactly when Miss Whitmore had left Charlotte alone. The Crown Prosecution Service reviewed the evidence, medical documentation, Charlotte's statement, witness accounts, security footage, Miss Whitmore's contradictory explanations. On the third day, formal charges were filed. Victoria Margaret Whitmore was charged with assault causing bodily harm to a child. The charge carried serious weight. If convicted, she faced up to 5 years in prison. William was in a meeting with his private secretary when the notification came through. He read it twice. Then he set down his phone and allowed himself one moment of satisfaction. "The charges have been filed," he said quietly. "I saw, sir. The palace will need to issue a statement. Keep it minimal. Acknowledge that an incident occurred involving a staff member and Princess Charlotte. Confirm that the staff member has been removed from their position and that a police investigation is ongoing. Nothing more." "Very good, sir." The palace statement went out that afternoon, brief, vague enough to avoid prejudicing the investigation, but clear enough that everyone understood something serious had happened. Behind the carefully worded public announcement, the real consequences were already in motion. Miss Whitmore had been removed from the palace immediately after charges were filed, her security clearance revoked, her access to all royal properties permanently barred. 23 years of service ended in disgrace. But more importantly, Charlotte was safe. Mitchell watched from a distance as security escorted Miss Whitmore from the palace grounds. She carried a single box of personal belongings. Her face was pale, composed, but her hands shook slightly as she walked. Captain Wells stood beside Mitchell. "Never thought I'd see the day. Victoria Whitmore arrested for assaulting a princess." "She assaulted a child," Mitchell corrected. "The princess part is secondary." "Fair point. You did good work on this, Mitchell. Trusting your gut, getting Charlotte help despite Whitmore trying to stop you. Just did my job. You did more than that. You put a child's safety ahead of palace hierarchy. Not everyone would have made that call." Mitchell thought about those crucial seconds in the corridor, when Whitmore had given him a direct order to stop, when he'd had to decide whether to obey or to trust his instincts, that something was seriously wrong. "She came to me for help," he said simply. "I couldn't let her down." 4 days after the charges were filed, Mitchell received a message through official channels. Prince William requested a private meeting. The specified time was early evening, after Charlotte would be in bed. Mitchell arrived at the designated office precisely on time. William was alone. No staff, no protocol officers, just a father who wanted to say thank you. "Sergeant Mitchell, please sit." Mitchell sat, maintaining professional posture. William didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I wanted to speak with you privately about what happened with Charlotte. Dr. Hayes told me you were the one who brought her for medical attention, that you bypassed Miss Whitmore's direct instruction to do so." "Yes, sir. I believed Princess Charlotte required immediate medical care." "You were right. The doctor says, if Charlotte had gone much longer without treatment, the brakes could have displaced, could have caused permanent damage to her wrist." William's voice was quiet but intense. "You protected my daughter when someone whose job was to care for her instead hurt her." "Your Highness, let me finish, please. Charlotte told me she came to you because she felt safe with you, because she knew you'd help her. That's not nothing, Sergeant. That's everything. You gave her someone to trust when the person who should have been trustworthy betrayed that trust completely." Mitchell felt the weight of those words. I'm just glad she's all right, sir. She's all right because you acted, because you trusted your judgment over palace hierarchy. I want you to know that your decision to take her to Dr. Hayes, despite Whitmore's objections, was exactly the right call. You put Charlotte's welfare first. That's what matters. Thank you, sir. William stood, extending his hand. Mitchell stood as well, shaking it firmly. There won't be a public commendation. No ceremony. Charlotte's privacy needs to be protected, and drawing attention to what you did would draw attention to what she went through. But I wanted you to know privately that you have my gratitude and my trust. I appreciate that, Your Highness. As Mitchell turned to leave, William added, Charlotte asked about you yesterday. Wanted to know if you'd gotten in trouble for helping her. I told her you were fine. She said to tell you thank you. Mitchell smiled slightly. Tell her she's very welcome, and tell her that purple cast suits her. The final moments of this investigation are unforgettable. Justice was about to be served from the highest level. Stay with us until the very end. Now, here's what happened when William demanded answers. 3 weeks later, Charlotte returned to her regular schedule. The cast remained, covered now with signatures and drawings from her brothers. George had written his name carefully in neat letters. Louis had indeed drawn dinosaurs, all over one side. She'd had several sessions with a child psychologist specializing in trauma. Nothing dramatic, just conversations about what happened, about how it wasn't her fault, about how speaking up when something's wrong is always the right choice. The nightmares had lasted about a week. Kate or William would hear her cry out, and they'd be there within seconds, holding her, reminding her she was safe, that Miss Whitmore was gone and would never return. Now, 3 weeks later, Charlotte was laughing again, playing with her brothers, working around her cast with impressive adaptability. Mitchell saw her one afternoon in the palace gardens. She was practicing her reading with Kate, her purple cast bright in the sunlight. When she noticed Mitchell walking past, she waved enthusiastically with her good hand. He waved back, smiling. That's the guard who helped me, Charlotte told Kate, loud enough for Mitchell to hear, when my wrist was broken. Kate looked up, meeting Mitchell's eyes. She nodded once. A mother's silent thank you, more meaningful than any official commendation could ever be. The investigation continued toward trial. Miss Whitmore had entered a not guilty plea, but her legal team was already discussing plea arrangements. The evidence against her was overwhelming: medical documentation, Charlotte's detailed statement, security footage, multiple witnesses, her own contradictory accounts. The Crown Prosecution Service was confident this case would likely never see a full trial. A plea agreement was almost certain, but that was for the courts to handle, for the legal system to process. In the palace, new protocols were being implemented. All staff who worked directly with the royal children were undergoing enhanced background checks and additional training, specifically training on appropriate discipline, appropriate physical contact, and mandatory reporting of concerning behavior. Captain Wells had instituted a policy that any child's complaint about staff conduct would be taken seriously and investigated immediately. No dismissing children's concerns as dramatics or imagination. Every royal protection officer received a reminder that their first duty was to protect, not to defer to hierarchy, not to maintain smooth palace operations, to protect. Sometimes that meant making uncomfortable decisions. Sometimes it meant bypassing authority. Sometimes it meant trusting a child over an adult with decades of service. Charlotte's cast came off after 6 weeks. Dr. Hayes examined the wrist carefully, took new x-rays, confirmed the bones had healed perfectly. Charlotte would have full mobility, no lasting damage. Can I practice curtsies again? Charlotte asked. Dr. Hayes smiled. You can do whatever you want, sweetheart. Your wrist is completely healed. Will it break again if I do them wrong? Charlotte, you didn't break your wrist by doing a curtsy wrong. Someone hurt you. That's not going to happen again. Charlotte considered this. Then she nodded. I know. I just wanted to make sure. That evening, Mitchell was on duty in the main corridor when he saw Charlotte practicing her curtsy, not with a protocol officer, with Kate. The young princess executed a perfect formal curtsy, rising gracefully, her face bright with accomplishment. Kate applauded. Beautiful, Charlotte. Absolutely perfect. Do you think it's good enough for the state dinner? I think it's good enough for anything." Charlotte beamed. Then she noticed Mitchell watching. "Did you see Sergeant Mitchell?" "I got it right. I saw, Your Highness." "Very impressive. And my wrist didn't hurt at all. Not even a little bit. I'm glad to hear it." Charlotte started to turn away, then paused. She walked over to Mitchell, her expression suddenly serious. "I wanted to say thank you properly, for helping me when I was hurt, for believing me when I said something was wrong." "You're very welcome, Princess Charlotte. Miss Whitmore was wrong, wasn't she? When she said no one would believe me if I told them what happened. She was very wrong. People believed you because you told the truth." "Good." Charlotte straightened her shoulders. "I won't let anyone make me scared to tell the truth again. That's the right attitude to have." Charlotte returned to Kate and they continued practicing. Mitchell felt something settle in his chest. Satisfaction. Charlotte wasn't just physically healed. She was finding her courage again, learning that speaking up was powerful, not dangerous. The trial date was set for 4 months out, but 2 weeks before the scheduled court date, Miss Whitmore's legal team contacted the Crown Prosecution Service. They wanted to discuss a plea agreement. The negotiation was straightforward. Miss Whitmore would plead guilty to assault causing bodily harm. In exchange for her guilty plea and formal admission of wrongdoing, the prosecution would recommend a sentence at the lower end of the range, 18 months in prison, followed by 2 years of supervised release. She would also be required to attend anger management courses and be permanently banned from working with children in any capacity. William was consulted about the plea agreement. Technically, he had no official say, but as Charlotte's father, his opinion carried weight. "I want Charlotte spared a trial," he said. "I don't want her to have to testify publicly. If the plea agreement guarantees Whitmore's guilt is acknowledged and she serves time, I support it." The prosecution conveyed this to Whitmore's team. The agreement was finalized. On a gray Tuesday morning in November, Victoria Margaret Whitmore stood before a judge and formally pleaded guilty to assaulting Princess Charlotte. She admitted grabbing the child's wrist and twisting it with sufficient force to cause 2 fractures. She admitted leaving Charlotte alone and injured while she tried to decide what to do. She admitted threatening the young princess into silence. The judge accepted the plea and imposed the agreed-upon sentence: 18 months in prison, 2 years supervised release, anger management requirement, permanent ban from working with children. Charlotte didn't attend the hearing. She was at school, practicing mathematics and learning about the solar system, doing normal 9-year-old things. But that evening, William told her it was over, that Miss Whitmore had admitted she was wrong, that she'd been sentenced for what she did, that justice had been served. Charlotte listened carefully. Then she asked, "Does this mean I don't have to be scared anymore?" "You were never supposed to be scared in the first place," William said gently. "But yes, it's over. Miss Whitmore is gone. She can't hurt you or anyone else again." Charlotte nodded. Then she went back to her homework, like the weight of the world had just lifted from her small shoulders. Mitchell learned about the sentencing through official channels. He didn't feel triumphant. He didn't feel vindicated. He just felt relieved that Charlotte could move forward without this hanging over her. True duty isn't about following orders blindly. It's about knowing when a child's safety matters more than protocol. Sometimes protecting the vulnerable means standing up to authority. Sometimes it means trusting your gut when something feels wrong. Sometimes it means being brave enough to act when everyone else looks away. Mitchell had been a royal guard for over a decade. He'd stood post during countless ceremonies, protected the family through transitions and celebrations, served with honor and distinction. But the day he'd chosen to believe a frightened 9-year-old girl over a staff member with 23 years of service, that was the day that mattered most. Not because it made headlines. It hadn't. The palace had kept Charlotte's privacy protected throughout. The public knew only the vaguest details. A staff member had been charged and convicted of assaulting a royal child. Justice had been served. But behind those careful press releases was a little girl who'd been hurt and scared, who'd found the courage to ask for help, and who'd been believed when she spoke up. Charlotte was 10 now. Her wrist had healed completely. She'd mastered the formal curtsy she'd been practicing that day. She'd given her first public speech at a charity event, speaking about the importance of listening to children. She still saw Mitchell in the corridors sometimes. She always smiled, always waved, always remembered that he'd been the one who helped when she needed it most. And Mitchell continued serving, standing post, protecting the family. But now when young palace staff asked him what it meant to be a royal guard, he had a new answer. It means protection comes first, he'd say. Not protocol, not hierarchy, not keeping things running smoothly. Protection, especially when it's children who need protecting. Some understood immediately, others nodded politely, and figured they'd learn the specifics as they went. But the ones who'd be truly good at this job, they understood that sometimes the most important thing a guard can do is listen to a frightened child and believe them when they say something's wrong. If this story showed you the courage of royal guards who put children's safety first, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. We share these untold stories from inside the palace every single day. Drop a comment. Would you have had the courage to act like this guard did? What would you have done in his position?